Okay, WRFG 89.3. It's Ramo Red Track. I'm doing this from my home today, but I think that it's gonna be an interesting ride right from home. So, I recorded this video or this interview for you guys. You can go check it out on Rockin' Irations on YouTube. I've got Eli here. He's from Puerto Rico, and this guy's got a lot to say. Because I was like asking him. I do Airbnb, and so he's one of my guests for 3 days. He's from Puerto Rico, and he's been talking about a lot of issues that are going on there, and also what he sees going on here. Well, I say it's really the same place, but they treat it like two different places. And you can see the chaos that's going on in Puerto Rico right now. So I think what I want to do is just start from the beginning, because we went so far down the road with some of the topics that we were talking about. But I just want to start out with some basics. Okay, now I'm going to ask you a question. What do you think the United States should have done differently with the whole hurricane situation in Puerto Rico?
They should not have ignored it for as long as they did. The fact of the matter is that Puerto Rico is U.S. territory. Just like any other state, it's literally a U.S. territory. We're just as Americans as everybody else. And it's not...
well, you're not actually just as American as everybody else, but go ahead.
Well, we kind of
you
are.
You should be.
We are. The thing, we're not treated as
you
such,
should be treated
but we are.
That way.
We're citizens. As soon as we're born, we're citizens just like everybody else. We have the same exact passport. We have the same rights. There's no additional processes that we have to go through as soon as we come out of our mother's wombs. So there's literally no difference, right?
So you say there's no difference. You're saying that you don't need a passport.
No, you don't need a passport at all. You don't need to go through any type of special vetting processes or anything like that, because we've already paid our dues, right? So the
what do you mean by you already paid your dues?
Well, during Vietnam, a lot of people from Puerto Rico got drafted. They literally got drafted in order to fight a war that was BS to begin with, right? My father was one of them. My father was one of those people. I had an uncle that unfortunately died over there as well. So we paid our dues. We've shed the same red blood that everybody else has for this nation, and we should not be neglected. The island of Puerto Rico should not be neglected under any circumstance. It is a U.S. territory. It basically, if you've gone through the trouble of annexing an island, you have responsibilities. You have responsibilities to meet, and it's not just one of those things out of convenience.
And I tell you, one of the things that you talked about when you got here was that you had a situation with cops where they stopped you. Now, me personally, would I think automatically you were from Puerto Rico? No, I would think you were from like Mexico or something like that, because you kind of look like that. But you're going to be treated like you're from Mexico.
That was...
Right? You're not treated like you're from Puerto Rico.
I don't know what I was treated at. All I know is that I got stopped over for a busted headlight. Next thing I know, I'm being called to step out of my vehicle. I'm being patted down. I'm not being told exactly what my offense was. And under the Constitution, every citizen has a right to know exactly what it is that the cause is. You can't just stop somebody without any type of cause. Right? It was one of the more frightening experiences, because quite frankly, I had cops literally yelling at me. I've never committed any type of crimes. I've never committed any offenses. I've never stepped out of line with the law. And to have these officers, two officers, just pull me over for a busted headlight and just pat me down like if I was literally a common criminal, the way that they were yelling at me was completely uncalled for. You know, it was completely uncalled for. Fortunately enough, I did notice that they had body cams, and I started, saying a few blurbs here and there to make sure that all this stuff was recorded. But quite honestly, I was frozen in time. Even though the whole experience lasted like 3 or 4 minutes, it literally felt like an eternity because I didn't know whether or not I was gonna die in the process. These guys were yelling at me for no reason.
What is the what did the hurricane? How did the hurricane affect you? Even though you weren't there, how did that affect you, your friends, your family, or whatever it was?
Well, it certainly affected my family. I have a lot of family over there still, including my father. My father was without power for about 3 or 4 months, and he consistently had to spend a lot of money. Most of his savings is gone as a result of it, right? Because he kept on having to spend excess amount of monies in order to keep his generators running and so forth, just so that he can actually have food inside of the fridge. But in other cases, I had a distant cousin that actually passed away because of the lack of power. Right. So electricity, unfortunately, it's necessary. It's necessary to keep life moving as we know it. Right. And the second that you pull the plug, the second you realize just how dependent we all are on such a basic thing as that. Right. And people really, really depend on it. I mean, if you look at the statistics of what happened in Puerto Rico. The amount of deaths that actually occurred within the first couple of weeks were minuscule to the amount of deaths that were reported within the first 12 months as a result of not having basic electricity. In other words, if our obligations were met, we would have never been in such a huge mess as what we were before. The amount of deaths would have been minimal. And to be frank, it would have been such a huge issue, such a huge political issue in the United States if we were another state. It really would have, because there were just too many unnecessary deaths. Right? That happened. That happened in Puerto Rico. And guess what? If we have another hurricane, then what? People continuously call out on what happened to Katrina here and there, but what happened in Puerto Rico? Puerto Rico was very, very bad, and people are still suffering to date as a result of it. What most people don't
When you
really
say suffering, what do you mean by suffering?
Well,
what type of suffering?
Well, suffering in the sense that your entire life completely changes. What most people don't realize is that as a result of the hurricane, a lot of people in Puerto Rico that have had the capacity to leave the island have actually left. It has completely upended the entire economy in Puerto Rico. A lot of the people that have very high degrees in education and so forth, they've actually shipped over to mainland U.S. Right? There has been a mass exodus in the island of Puerto Rico, and as a result, many of the schools that we've had and throughout the island have actually closed down. Kids
okay, we
suffering.
got 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
All right. How can what can fix the problem? What do you think? In 2 minutes.
Things like this, just make sure that people understand, what Puerto Rico is about. Make sure that people understand that look, you have additional brothers and sisters that you really have to unite along your side, right?
And not only that, I'm going there to get me a chick because I can fly her back. You know what I'm saying? Like without any problems. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, we're brothers and sisters. We bleed the same blood that you guys do. We go to the same exact wars that everybody else does. Don't ignore us. Don't just see us as just scabs in the way.
I've never seen people from Puerto Rico like that, actually. I think it's a convenient thing for the United States, because they said they gave Puerto Rico $82 billion. Was it million or billion? I feel like that guy in that movie. Was it billion or million?
No, it couldn't have been billion.
Okay, they gave him $84 million. Okay.
Yeah, but what people don't realize is that was all right. So, despite the fact that it was $84 million, that was specifically positioned to give that money away for a U.S.-based company. It wasn't the island of Puerto Rico. There was actually a U.S.-based company that was originally like a 10-man shop, which exponentially grew over a period of a couple of months to over 100 people. Right? They shipped all those people from the U.S. over to Puerto Rico, and it ended up blasting the hourly rates, from your typical $30 to $40 an hour to $150 an hour. So when was the amounts high initially? Absolutely, but so was the expenses, and it was unnecessary because you have more than qualified people in the island of Puerto Rico to do their own work. We just needed a little bit of assistance. We didn't need some other company to come in and basically consume the entire budget. So a lot of these things most people don't really know. They only see the superficial things, but they don't see how corrupted. It's basically giving a stack of fixed cards over so you can play poker. Are you ever going to win? Absolutely not.
So, should I go to Puerto Rico and get me a chick?
Absolutely.
It's a little desperate out there. I was thinking about El Paso, but I think the chicks you go down there to Mexico, right? You go down to El Paso, right? You pick up a chick. You don't know if she's gonna end up looking like what's the guy? SpongeBob Squares. What is his name? The little cartoon character. Square SpongeBob. Yeah, a lot of Mexican women come out looking like that. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to get me a chick that's gonna hold it together. You know what I mean? That needs the extra $10. You know what I mean? Like, for real. But anyway, this is my interview with Eli. I'm gonna bring him back on. Maybe in a couple of weeks, and we'll talk about what's going on in Puerto Rico, because it's a little bit desperate over there, and now they've got the leader over there in trouble, and now you got the riots and everything like that, and that's what happens when people, man, if they don't get what they need, anybody's gonna go out and take what they need. And so you don't want to put people in desperate situations, because then now they gotta act like a fool. So it's the same thing that goes on over here. We had a blackout in New York, and I was like, I hope that like black people don't start looting and stuff, because that's exactly what they want to see. They want to see y'all over there tearing up the place, and then they'll be like, oh, well, that's why we didn't give them any money. You see what I mean? Now, out of that $84 million, I heard only 12 billion. I heard only 12 million of it actually got to the people. Did you hear that? Okay. So, that's another thing. So, we're going to continue this. This is my boy Eli from Puerto Rico. And like I said, we're just trying to, enlighten people, let them know a different perspective. And, he gave me a different perspective. And this is just a light action type interview, but I'm going to have him back on, and I want him to talk about some other things that might be important to everybody. WRFG 89.3, Ramo Red Track, we doing it.